Okay, once you get the wheel off the bike, obviously, look for puncture tires, shreds, foreign objects sticking out, nails and staples, easy fixes where you can just put another tube in the tire, or do you have to replace the tire and the tube as a combo. This one's a pinch flat, so usually what you want to start with is the valve stem. There's a 12mm nut on the valve stem there. Hopefully I got my camera at the right angle. It's a typical lefty-loosey, righty-tighty affair. You don't have to tighten this back on very tight when you replace the tire. Just unsnug it and should just spin off with your fingers once you got it. Look at that, the valve stem's crooked. This is a perfect example of flattened tire riding with low pressure. It took that nut on the back side of that. Oh man, is that thing on there stuck on good. It literally pinched the tube and pulled it to the right. As you can see, it's coming out at a funny angle as they release tension on it because the tube has been pulled due to low air pressure. So once you get it loose enough, you can just spin it off with your finger. I suggest keeping the 12mm nut from your dead tube. That way, if you ever lose that, you can have another one handy. Coil up your wire, put it someplace on the tire so you're not going to, as you pull the tire around. Put a screwdriver in there. Try not to grab the rim tape, and that's the first part of breaking the bead. Alternately, you can use a couple screwdrivers. You're probably going to savage the tube in the process of doing this. Getting it off sometimes is a real pain in the neck, and that's where I go for the pry bar. I made this because I couldn't find an industrial bike tool that would actually last long enough, so I made it out of a piece of 3/8" bar steel, ground it down, polished it, and put a notch, and that actually will catch the bead of the tire and the rim. Well, you could be a caveman, have your friend Bubba Joe come and get it, or use some leverage. And even then, sometimes it's stubborn enough. Separate about 4 inches. And there's your first bead. Once you get the majority of the tire up over the rim, you'll be able to continue with the screwdriver. It may take you several attempts. This thing's like a motorcycle tire. Like I said, it's not pretty, but it works. Of course, the guys at the auto tire shop are probably having a good laugh. They probably got a machine to do this for them, but alternatively, if you can get a wrench wedged in there, you could use a box end wrench. Like I said, you're sacrificing the tube in the process. I'm not a proponent for patching tubes. The rubber that they make these tires out of is not the best quality, but they hold up if you keep the tires inflated. Once you get to the last part of the bead, you can just put the flat end of the screwdriver in there and just ride the outside of the rim so you're not scoring the rim tape. Now that you got the valve stem loose, oh yeah, look at that tube. It was just crinkled up right in there. So you can see if you can get this thing unstuck. There it goes. Watch out for metal filings. Good idea to give the rim a bath. That way you're not dragging anything into the tire when you put it back together. Well, there's your typical pinch tube. Totally swam that king one. This is an earlier 2012 tire. It's got that greasy vinyl rubber type of feel to it. It just patches won't stick to it. It's done. Keep your 12mm nut off there. And the bushing washer, I guess you would call it. Keep that as spare. And check your rim. Make sure there's no scratches, dents, burrs on the rim. There's definitely some transferred rubber as the tire got spun around inside the rim, so obviously it was ridden while it was low. That's an important thing for dealers to notice, is that they'll swear up and down, oh, I didn't do that. Well, then how can you have a layer of rubber stuck to the inside of the rim? Check your rim tape, make sure it's lined up, not broken. Replace it as necessary. Align it. If it's folded over, unfold it. Check for foreign objects. Oh, there's a tear right there. I'll patch that with a piece of rubber patch. So where was that rim tape there? We'll straighten it out. It was folded over. You can usually feel that with your fingers. While you're at it too, I forgot to mention, you can take the brake assembly out, check his brakes, check the thickness. You measure grooves, no. Normal wear and tear, a little bit of dust in there, you want to clean that out. And make sure this is all grease free so that the brake shoes have something to grab onto. There shouldn't be any grease in there, but some people get a little overzealous of greasing their bike, thinking that, oh, we'll grease the bearings, and they squirt grease down that axle hole and trying to get at the bearings. On the 2013 models, I forgot to mention this, on the 2013 models, against the seal, there's a little floating washer right there. And I noticed that on a couple of the bikes, if you over tighten the axle nuts, the brakes will start to drag on the drum even though it's not fully tight. So one of the possible fixes was to get a 9/16 diameter washer at your handy dandy hardware store, and it covers that seal. You put the smaller washer on there first, you put the bigger washer on there, and that provides just a little bit of space, and it forces this brake shoe to ride on the outside just a little bit better with a gap between it. Now the 2012 models, they have plenty of gap in there already as it is. It's just by the design of the hub motor that they put a proper tolerances in there. But on the 2013s, I noticed it was getting down to less than a 1/16 of an inch or 32nd of an inch. If you put a washer in there, it won't squeak. And you could also just not tighten the axle nuts on and use a lock nut. And that'll save you the hassle of that. Check your sprocket. Make sure the bearings work, no chipped teeth, decent wear, spins freely. I have not done the bearings on these motors yet, but it should be pretty straightforward. You'd have to despoke it, take out the Allen hex nuts and pull the motor apart. In order to get the bearings, you just press out, press in affair. So that's pretty much the wheel itself. You can check for loose spokes. Alternately, you can also tighten them up. Be very careful when you do so that you don't untrue the rim. This one was pretty straight. I'm probably able to just true it up once I get it back on the bike. If you're going to replace the hub motor, you start out with a group of set of spokes crosswise, 2, 2, 2, and then 2. Make them all just finger tight. Measure it, make sure it's equal distance. Then you can go ahead and put the wheel back on the bike, and then go ahead and appropriately torque it so that the wheel's not up and down, or the wheel and rim's not wobbling side to side. Use a dial caliper or just your fingertip. The wheel has to be balanced, otherwise, if it does have any wows in it or bangs in it from going over a curb or in a ditch or a pothole or something, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. Here's why. Visualize this rubber tire as basically a rubber mallet. If there's a bang in the rim, a dish, or it's out of true, one way or the other, you know, side to side or up and down, Every time you go around, a revolution of rubber is banging on that dent, and it's just going to make it worse and worse and worse and worse until eventually you have a wheel that is just, you know, totally out of balance, and that's going to put force on the bearings, wear out your bearings, or cause it to break the drag, and you have a squeak, 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 squeak with every rotation. Different squeaks, different noises, different problems. So you have to keep your wheel true. So this is a good time to go ahead and clean the wheel, get ready to go ahead and true the spokes, or if you're in the process of replacing the motor, to pay special attention to make sure you got it true before you put the tire tube back in. Put the tube back in is pretty much the reverse of what we just did here. And this particular wheel is a 17 by 225. And the CG and the China Post bikes are the 17 by 2.50 tire. Of course, it's marked right on the tire itself. This one is 160 by 17. So yeah, this is a 17 by 225 tire. Yeah, 225 17. Now would be a good time to check the sidewall. Yeah, it's 40 psi. If you do take the tire off, there is a rotation arrow on the tire. Obviously, the tire rotates this way because this is the sprocket on the right-hand side, but if you do change the tire, make sure you got the same rotation so you're not working against the rubber bias plies that they made the tire with. I do like these motors though. They got a lot extra meat on the heatsink, so they don't run hot. They'll last you a long time. Okay, I'm going to get a tube here and we'll put it back in. Oh, Kenda 225 17, the better tire. Made in China. Once again, last time, let's check that rim tape. Find out where that section was folded over, straighten it out, uncurl it. Make sure your rim tape is good. You don't want to have any not kinking up your tire. I usually keep a couple pieces of loose rubber handy, dead tires, or you can use the existing one you just chopped up or pulled out of the bike to make a patch for that rim tape. Usually I have some cement. You need a sharp pair of dikes. Make a patch for that. I don't recommend putting duct tape on there. That would not be a smart idea. So get yourself a piece of tubing, rubber of equivalent or better value, thin as possible. Put a patch on that rim tape, or replace the whole rim tape. Still looking for suppliers for that. It's kind of hard to get. I've been knowing that you just sit down with an X-Acto knife and take one of these old tubes and just cut it short so that it snaps tight on the rim and glue the two pieces together. Score and rough it up a little bit with a screwdriver. With a needle file, that's even better. Gonna give it something to adhere to. Use an old coarse nail file. That's about the right size patch. And let's find that damaged rim tape piece. It's right in here someplace around the bead. You want to make sure that hole's lined up. There it is. It's on this side. So you want to line up your, dab some glue on there. Get it start to tack up. Get some oxygen to it. This also kind of effectively glues the rim tape to the rim, but that's okay. Put a piece of rubber in there so it lays flat as much as possible. In between the two bumps is probably preferable. And starting to tack up, need a little bit more glue here. And once again, it's been known to cause reproductive harm and dangerous chemicals known in the state of California, but we're in Washington, so it doesn't apply. Maybe you want to wear some gloves. I think I'm already done for anyway. And it's starting to tack up, so we're going to let it sit here for a few minutes, then I'll go ahead and put a tube in. So I'm going to pause this and I'll come back and finish it.